Mindset or execution? What is the root cause of the Predators' 0-4 start after last night's loss to the Oilers? We're going to tell you the one word that Jonathan Marchessault used to describe this Predators team and what it means on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this? Yes, you made it to Friday episode, welcoming any first-time listeners, and of course, sending a shout out to our everydayers and to our Locked On Predators insiders. We appreciate your support, and we love talking Nashville Predators hockey with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Well, the Predators are now 0-4 on the season. That's right. They fell 4-2 to the Edmonton Oilers last night at home. On today's show, we're going to talk about that game, including our one word to describe the loss. We're also going to hear from Jonathan Marchessault and an interesting one word that he used to describe this Predators team right now. We're also going to turn the page and talk about improvements for Saturday's game against Detroit. Before we dive into all of those topics, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, Emma, it was nice for the moment that the Nashville Predators had a lead for the first time in the season. They went up 1-0, final score 4-2. Predators fall to 0-4 on the season, which maybe would feel differently if the expectations were more like the Nashville Predators were going to be 4-0 at this point. So 4 games in, just gauge kind of, where's your panic level?
I'm still not panicked. I'm really not.
I like it.
Not. I mean, again, it's going to be ebbs and flows. We've been here before. I don't need to rehash everything that I said on yesterday's episode and on previous episodes, but I'm really not panicked yet because there is all these issues that we're seeing. They are the result of a team that has not played together enough yet. And they're going to get there. And I have faith, and they most importantly, they have faith in themselves and in their group that they're going to get through it. I really do just think, in an 82 game season, slumps happen. It feels really bad when that slump happens at the very beginning of the season. I understand that, and I'm not trying to downplay that or how it feels, but I'm still not panicking. I'm not saying it's fun. It's not fun to watch 4 losses, but I'm not worried yet.
I like that. Okay, good. And it doesn't feel great. But again, remember the sage advice, feelings are like farts, just indicators of something. Doesn't mean always what you think it means. Of course, here at Locked On Predators, we like to kick off our game recaps with one word to describe the game. Emma, do you want to kick us off and share what is your one word to describe this 4-2 loss to Edmonton?
So I think my one word after the loss to Seattle was defense ? Now I'm going to say defense ! Is my word.
Yes.
Because I think I was honestly very I don't want to say concerned because I just got through saying I'm not concerned, but I was curious to see how the defense would look because the defense looked very bad against
Not
Seattle.
great. Yes.
And I was looking for a little bit more consistency there, a little bit more connection. It wasn't perfect, but they definitely looked a little more cohesive on defense. And I will say, that's at 5-on-5, but particularly on the penalty kill, I thought the
Yes.
Predators looked very good against Edmonton, who, does not suck on the power play. Although this year they've
So far
gotten
this
off,
season, yeah.
but in general,
Mhm.
that's usually not a team that you want to give a ton of power play chances to.
They're a fantasy hockey power play team right
Yes,
now.
yes. But I thought the Predators, they had a monster kill in the second period.
Mhm.
They had back-to-back penalties committed by two of their top penalty killers in Jeremy Lazan and Cole Smith. So you lose those guys. The Oilers had about 3 minutes of the man advantage, and of course, once they got back to even strength, Edmonton scored. But the point is,
Penalty kill was good.
penalty kill was good. And I think, yeah, so the defense, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't stellar, but it what I wanted to see was an improvement over the Seattle game, and I saw that.
Yes, it helped tremendously to see that. I think it kept this game close. It was a 3-2 game until, the last minute and a half, I think, is when they got their empty net goal. So this was really a one goal game, and it was a good it was a tight game. I don't think we saw Edmonton's best. I also don't
No.
think we saw Nashville's best either. So these are two teams still kind of trying to settle into their season. My one word is a word that I think we've heard Andrew Brunette use before in post-game press conferences, and it's the word passengers. And I think unintentionally there may be some passengers right now on the Predators roster, and not because there are players who are not committed, not because there aren't players. I don't think there are players sitting there going, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit here and do the bare minimum and cash my check. They're all much too competitive for that. That's not what I'm talking about. But as far as, like, I think of it like right now, it feels like the Nashville Predators think that they're a bus. And Steven Stamkos is the only one that knows how to drive the manual transmission on the bus. But really, we're playing Mario Kart. Everybody has their own car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it feels a little bit like they need to get off the bus and get into their Mario Kart cars, and everybody has to put the pedal to the metal here, because it just sort of seems like they're counting on Steven Stamkos, and nobody has said it, so I don't want any of our listeners to think, Luke Evangelista is in the locker room going, well, why would I want the puck when Steven Stamkos could have it? Nobody's saying that, but I just kind of feel a little bit like, hey guys, remember, this is Mario Kart. Like, we all drive our own cars.
Yeah, they do still look, offensively, especially, they still look a little timid,
Mhm.
and a little kind of scared to get in and get those ugly goals. And I mean, then you'll see like flashes of it. So it's like, okay, it's there.
You
It's there.
know,
We just gotta bring it out. And it's like they're just not comfortable yet, I don't think, with each other, and that's okay. Like that is something that literally will only come with time. You can't teach that or just tell someone, "Hey, be comfortable." And it's like, "Okay." Like
oh, that's
yeah.
like telling a woman to calm down when she's upset.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Try
Don't do
that. See how that goes for you.
don't do that. Yeah. So, of course, we always reach out to our Locked On Predators insiders post game to get their one words. Got some great one words. Y'all are you're so great at this. Henry, his one word, it was panic. He said panic. And I know it feels like that, Henry. Like, I think that there are a lot of gastrointestinal systems at Bridgestone Arena tonight that were churning. They were churning and they want that win. So I get it. Dustin's one word is whelp, disappointment, resignation, an informal variant of well used to indicate disappointment, resignation, or acceptance at the beginning of an utterance. Well, this might not work out for us after all. Nailed it. Chris's one word, this is a great one too. Off target is my one word for this game. Predators passing isn't crisp, space is hard to find, and zone entries are difficult. That is such a really good summary. Off target is a great summary of different areas of the game, but completely agree with the passing. This was not Nashville's best passing game, and it wasn't their worst. We all saw Seattle, but they're still not tape to tape yet. Corey's one word, try hard. That's 2 words, but because Corey's an insider, it's all good. Seems like the Sports Center worthy goal attempts are becoming second nature instead of putting a volume of pucks on net. Exactly kind of what you were saying, Emma. Like, don't forget those greasy goals are worth the exact same number of points as those Sports Center worthy goals. I think Corey kind of nailed that with that. We do want to give an award. This is new, to probably the best one word in the history of the one words, the Locked On Predators podcast. And actually, this insider, we have your phone number. We don't have your name. And I'm so bummed about that because you deserve all the recognition. This insider's one word is mustard because Stamkos was so close to finding the ketchup.
Oh, I'm so proud. I'm so proud.
Like, when I, wanted to leave a legacy in this life, I thought about it with my kids, but now I'm so much more proud of that right there. That was great. Honestly, Steven Stamkos had a couple of shots on one of the power play opportunities from the circle, and like you can just hear this Bridgestone sound, because the
Like
roof
the
is going to blow off when it
It's
happens.
like the collective inhale. You're like, oh my God, is it gonna do it?
Happen. It is going to happen. Henry, especially, don't panic. It is going to happen. Steven Stamkos is going to score a goal. Coming up, we are going to talk about an interesting one word that Jonathan Marchessault used in the post game to talk about where this team is. We're also going to share with you a couple of takeaways and observations from this game. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. It's the way daily fantasy sports should be played. It's not you against 1,000 strangers. It's just you against the PrizePicks projections for your favorite players in your favorite sports. We know the Predators lean big time on UC Saros to protect the net, so why not include a more pick on Saros saves when the hockey season is going along here? Download the PrizePicks app today and use our code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, Emma, we're talking about the Edmonton 4-2 loss last night, dropping the Nashville Predators to 0-4 to start the season. And we're going to talk about, some just more practical observations and takeaways here in just a minute. But we walked out of post-game media, and it wasn't just us, I think just as a collective group. We all walked out with a new appreciation for Jonathan Marchessault. Here's what I'm going to say, just off the cuff. Jonathan Marchessault strikes me, as we are getting to know him, as somebody who, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this because I mean it complimentary, but he kind of is somebody who I don't think has a ton of F's to give, if you know what I'm saying. And I mean that in the most complimentary way. Like, he just is a very straight shooter. He's there to, do his job and to do it well, and he wants to win. And all of that is conveyed in a really positive way. I want to emphasize that. I mean this as a compliment. But he was so very transparent, I think, in his conversations, which you don't always get from hockey players, if we're being real.
very transparent, very introspective, and you
Mhm.
could tell that he was putting a lot of thought and effort into what he was saying, which as reporters, as media members, we love. We appreciate
Oh,
that so much because do you know how much scripted coach speak we have to listen to all the
get
time?
pucks in deep.
Get pucks in deep, crush the net. Like, all right, it we get it.
Yeah.
I think it's just like it's so nice when a player or a coach, to be honest. And I will shout out John Hines here, which is always
Yes.
popular around Predators fans. Shout out John Hines, one of the most thoughtful and insightful interviews you would ever get because he actually would
Absolutely.
take the time to think about what he wanted to say. Because he took it seriously.
Mhm.
And just like we take our job seriously covering this team and reporting on them, it is very nice when they take it seriously and, you know, give us quality answers. So that's
Mhm.
our little ode to Jonathan Marchessault.
Yeah, it was so great, and this was kind of our first time post-game to converse with him, and this was a game where you wanted to really get some insight into how the players are feeling because, like, are they panicking? It's only 4 games in. What is the gauge? Well, Jonathan Marchessault had some great answers, and so we wanna play just a clip of what he shared with us. Listen carefully to the word he uses to describe how the team is right now.
For a group, we got to find a way to win hockey games here, and we can't have a glimpse of our game to be good. I think it needs to be more of a consistent effort, and we're not doing that right now. Yeah, I mean, right now I think we're a little fragile group. Like we're at the beginning of the season, it's not going like we want, and like in the off season, everybody says how good you guys are gonna be and everything, and we maybe have to think that we're a good team, but not good enough. We got to work harder than the opponent, and sometimes it's that's something that they did last year, and that's as a new guy, I just want to come in and try to jump in that boat and help them be successful again. So yeah, it's really disappointed for a group, but preparation starts right now for Saturday.
We have been, kind of talking back and forth, as these losses have kind of started to, I hate to say pile up. It's 4. It's like knee high to a grasshopper, but these 4 losses,
A little baby pile.
it's just a little baby pile. This is like a no, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say it's like a one poop bag scoop, but that's probably too far.
just a little one.
Just a little. Well, we may edit that out, but you all know what we're saying. You're picking up what we're putting down here. But I think it's so interesting, and it was so helpful to hear him say, I think our group may be a little fragile right now. What did that mean? Like, what did you take away from that and just the sum total of his comments?
I walked out of that locker room, and I looked at you, Ann, and I said, "He said the thing. He said the
They
thing."
they don't always
Because
say the thing.
they rarely say the thing. And it's like and the thing being the big elephant in the room that no one ever wants to talk about, which is like how big and how lofty the expectations were for this team coming in, from the off season. And it's one of those things that we've been saying it for a long time. We're like, look, expectations sky high. But when we saw even, when it was NHL.com had them ranked at number 7, and we were like, okay, easy there. Like, I think we were saying it. We're like, okay, we hear all of this hype. Like, it almost made us a little bit more nervous. Like, well, like, maybe not.
Yes.
I don't know. So it's one of those things where it's like, these players don't live in a vacuum. They hear it. And as much as they have to train themselves to block out the noise, they're human and they know these things. And so more often than not, 9 times out of 10, you ask any guy about, oh, like the expectations of this team are so high. Do you feel extra pressure? And they'll always say, a very diplomatic answer. They're
Yes.
like, no, we're just going to go play our game, and
Mhm.
it's like, okay, whatever. But Jonathan Marchessault was very raw and authentic, I thought, with his answer. He's like, yeah, no, this sucks because we are supposed to be better than this.
Yeah.
And that he said, like, we're not good enough and we need to work harder, which I think is a lot of what Andrew Burnett's message has been the last few times we've heard from him, which has been like, we can't just rely on our skill. Again, you can't just rely on that fantasy hockey roster because you don't play the game on paper. It's like, okay, we have all this skill. So, yes, that gives us an advantage. But if the opponent outworks you, then you don't have that advantage anymore. And now, in this case, I will say and we've said already, they have had a very tough opening to their schedule. So,
Yes.
they're not, again, they're facing very good hockey teams on the other side of the ice. So I want to give credit to where that's due. I'm not
Mhm.
saying, oh, they should easily be 4-0 right now, because no, but I think that they are trying to get a little bit too cute, a little bit too fancy, a little bit like, ooh, look at us. We have all these shiny new toys. And they're afraid to kind of get down and get dirty. And I think that they need to do that right now. And I liked what he said about being fragile as a group right now, because
Yes.
I think that was very insightful about the mental state of everyone right now, where again, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. It's like they're not totally comfortable together yet. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a reason to panic. It's just literally a byproduct of the fact that they have only played together for 4 games.
Yes.
So that's why I'm not Of course they're going to be fragile right now. That's okay. And honestly, you can't force these things are going to happen on their own time. You can't force it. But yeah, I think that it was nice to hear a very honest answer like that.
Yeah, it really was.
That wasn't just like, well, no, we just got to be better. And
Gotta clean up a few things,
yeah.
which and look, you do need to clean up a few things, but it is helpful to understand not only the on ice logistics of what needs to be better, but also what is the mental state of the team.
Well, yeah, because we're watching the game too. Like, I can tell you, like, I know you need to clean up a few things. Like, tell me something I don't already
Right.
know. That's what I'm looking for when, because it's like I was here. I watched the game. I'm not asking you to tell me what happened in the game. I'm asking you to, like, what was going on between the ears, what was being said, what's
Mhm.
the feeling, the vibe. Because again, I'm like, I can all day tell you what you did wrong, but you don't need me to do that. I'm asking you to tell me where you think it went wrong. And that's why it was nice to get such an honest answer like that.
Mhm. And I think it was interesting as we talked to Andrew Brunette, how much of this is that mental component of expectations versus reality and adjusting to just the new circumstances that this team is in versus on ice execution. And I think it's a bit of both. I think if you fix one, the other one will automatically self-correct. But it's like, which one is this team going to be able to fix first? The on ice execution piece that will give them that confidence and kind of that release mentally, or do they need to reset mentally to take the pressure off and kind of refocus them to do on ice well? One or the other has to be fixed.
And I think honestly, to a degree, it's going to be both. Like they
Mhm.
both feed off of each other. It's a
True.
a symbiotic
Symbiotic.
relationship.
Come on. You watch Star Wars. You know that. They use that phrase.
Okay, I was gonna say I took like middle school biology. Yeah, I know that phrase.
Also a good use. Yes.
But yeah, I think that it's one affects the other, and it's
Mhm.
always, I mean, it's the same way not to get too deep and philosophical here, but just in life, like so much of your physical health is affected by your mental health and vice versa.
Yes.
And so I think that I'm not saying that this is necessarily a mental health issue, but I'm saying that what mindset goes, it plays into what the product is going to be. And like if you're not, it's kind of a vicious cycle. If you're not feeling confident, if you're feeling a little uneasy, a little fragile, you're not going to be playing your best. And like you said, and this was not their best. It also wasn't Edmonton's best.
No.
But it's a little bit like they need some more confidence in order to score more and to look more dominant. But ironically, the only way to get that confidence is to score more and look more dominant. So it's
Yes.
a little bit of a vicious cycle here.
Yeah. And I really think if one thing can get kind of back on track, the other thing will come. It's just which one is easier to correct and more quickly corrected. And that, I think, is what we're going to have to wait and see, Saturday afternoon against Detroit. Coming up, we will tell you a couple of specific things that we saw from this Edmonton game that we need to see carry over against Detroit. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Friends, October is the most wonderful time of the year for sports. You've got Major League Baseball postseason in full swing. Of course, the NFL is underway and the NHL season has kicked off as well. The best place to celebrate this sports season is with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. NFL fans, you can kick off your season with a big return at FanDuel. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's right, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with your first $5 bet. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. And you can do it all on the same page where you place your bets. So check out the sports details and all the action at FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. If you are looking forward to seeing the Predators get their first win at Bridgestone Arena, or you just want to go out and make some great fall memories with a live event, you've got to check out all the deals at Gametime. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to get tickets for your favorite sports, music, theater, and comedy. Gametime now has this great time-saving feature. It's called Gametime Picks, and it's going to make getting those tickets even easier. Gametime Picks filters out all of the fluff, and you're only going to see incredible deals on great seats, so you're not wasting time searching through these thousands of tickets. Gametime has great deals right now on tickets for Nashville SC, the Tennessee Titans, and of course, the Nashville Predators. They also have a low price guarantee and the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Okay, Emma, we saw, some struggles in this Edmonton game. I would say overall an improvement from the Seattle game, which really almost made your eyes burn. That was a real rough game. I did want to talk about puck possession time because this was a tale of, two different sort of chapters in a 3-period game through 2 periods. According to Natural Stat Trick, we're looking at a stat called Corsi 4, which kind of gauges puck possession. Nashville only had the puck 30% of the time, Edmonton 70% of the time. And I think in the first 2 periods, that was kind of a direct result of some of those bad passes, not getting the puck through the neutral zone. They just struggled to get it out of the defensive zone, and Edmonton kind of kept it in. We didn't see a lot of offensive zone time. The 3rd period, however, we saw Nashville get a little bit closer to that style of play, that was effective for them last season, and they had the puck 68% of the time. Part of that, too, was that Edmonton had some power plays earlier in the game, and that affects Corsi for as well. But just in general, I think the third period was probably the best I think the Predators looked last night against Edmonton. Would you agree?
I would, yeah. At least for consistent, for a consistent 20 minutes, I would say yes, for sure. There were little splashes in the first and the second where they looked good. Like I said, that penalty kill in the second period, they looked really good. But
Amazing penalty killing.
I think yes, as a whole, the third period was the best. And definitely, I mean, those numbers kind of reflect what it looked like. It was you're kind of watching the game and it's like, man, can they just hold on to the puck for a minute? Like, it was just, again, it was a little bit of the like kind of sloppy passing, but not, I don't quite know how to describe it. It's not sloppy as in careless. It was almost like the opposite. It's like they're too worried and they're too like hyper focused on, oh, got to get this pass off. We got to nail this, whatever it is. And I think it kind of goes back to what and Jonathan Marchessault said this as well, and actually in response to a question you asked about how to kind of clean things up and how are they gonna like get over the hump and build that connection and start connecting better with one another, with those passes to limit the turnovers and things like that. And he said you just got to keep it simple.
Yes.
And it's like, that's true. I mean, again, there's a difference just in the quality. If you're watching this team play, they're not careless. They're not carelessly sloppy where they're just kind of half-hearted, not really finishing their checks or finishing plays or anything like that. It's more of it's like they're trying too hard a little
It's
bit.
like they're in their head.
Yes, they're
A
all
little bit.
kind of collectively in their heads right now. And yeah, I don't want to call out Cody Glass because we love Cody Glass here,
We
but I
do.
remember we've said this a lot about Cody Glass in the past, who obviously he is now with the Penguins, but I think we said this before that it was like, oh, if he could just get out of his own head and if he could just make the plays and not overthink it and not put too much pressure on himself. And these last 4 games, it has looked like we are watching an entire team of Cody Glasses. And
Yes.
it's like, okay. And it's frustrating because how much talent there is. Same thing with Cody Glass. How much talent
Oh,
there is
yeah.
there. How much upside, how much potential. And it's so frustrating because you can tell they want it so bad and they're trying. They're just
Yeah.
not there yet. And
Yes.
again, goes back to what I said at the beginning. That's why I'm not panicked yet.
I will say this is what has me concerned. I was okay going into the season. It just concerned, Henry. I'm not panicked yet, but I am concerned. I am feeling your feels. Going into this season, I am okay with Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos and Brady Shea and Scott Wedgwood needing time, needing plenty of time. But what concerns me, and I thought about this after the game, I haven't seen a player on this team who had played last year, who's back again, playing at the level that we were used to seeing them play with consistency. And I'm talking about top line guys. I don't think we've seen Filip Forsberg. I don't think we've seen Roman Yossi. I don't think we've seen Colton Sissons. I don't think we've seen Michael McCarron, and on and on and on, play at the level that we consistently saw from them last season. Now, I know the beginning of last season was a little bit rough, but we still saw like, hey, we know the potential. We just haven't seen anybody, I will say, with the exception of UC Saros, who really kept the Predators in this game against Edmonton. I haven't seen them play the way that they individually are able to play, and we saw them play relatively consistently last year. That's where I'm feeling a little like I'm okay if the new guys need time. I really am not enjoying watching the old guys need time.
I feel that, but again,
Mhm.
I think like you said, they all need to get in their little Mario Karts and then they'll be
Get your
okay.
Mario Kart.
But I think again, and I made this point on an earlier show, but I think all of it speaks to how much hockey in general is a team sport, that you
Mhm.
can't just have one or two guys carrying you on their backs the entire time. And they do feed off each other and they do have a connection where it's like if you feel that, I mean, even right now, if you and I are doing this podcast and I can sense that you're nervous or you're uneasy and you're discombobulated and it's causing you to make a lot of mistakes, it's going to make me feel flustered as
Mhm.
well. And then both of our, you know, our quality is probably going to go down. And so I think that that's what we're seeing here. So again, it's that's why I think it's important what Jonathan Marchessault said, which is that we're fragile, but he said we're fragile as a group. And I think
Mm.
that that's what's important to remember here because they are a group, they are a team. Ideally, you know, as these newer guys pick up this system and they figure out what combinations of players work best with one another, you want them to be like sharing a brain. And that again is going to take time and it's going to take consistency, which very proud of Andrew Brunette, kept the
Yes.
lines consistent the entire game. Well
Yes.
done. Well done.
Yes. So, looking ahead to tomorrow afternoon's game against Detroit, Emma, what is one thing that you want to see the Predators do better? I know there's multiple to choose from, but kind of what is one thing that you're watching for to say, okay, if you can do this better, you are moving in the right direction?
Um, I'm gonna say control the puck a
Mm.
little bit better. Again, a lot of the passes and you know, it just seems very frantic and they're kind of overshooting each other and it's resulting in some turnovers. And again, Saros has been Saros and he has kept them in these games, or especially in the Edmonton game. And that first period, it was what 2-1 going into the intermission. It could have easily been 5-1,
Oh,
in
easily.
just in that first period alone. And so they have Saros bailing them out right now. And that's okay. It's not sustainable for a whole season though. So you can't be turning the puck over that much. And so that's what I would like to see.
Yeah. I would like to see them shoot the puck. I don't want to be that
Also
guy, but shoot
that.
the puck. Don't
Yes.
don't pass it back and try to shoot the puck
Yeah.
and crash the net. You know, and I know we were just on the podcast
Get
talking
pucks
about
in deep.
don't give those pucks in deep answers, but I'm just telling you that's my pucks in deep answer. Just shoot the puck, crash the net,
Mm.
get a greasy goal. And I really do think once Nashville gets the monkey off their back, once they get that first win, once Steven Stamkos scores that goal from his office, um, the monkey is going to be off the back and everybody is going to be able to exhale. And then we're really going to be able to see this Nashville Predators team. Didn't happen last night. Could happen tomorrow afternoon against Detroit. So on Monday, we will be back. We are, of course, going to recap the game from Saturday against Detroit, including our one word to describe the game. And we're going to take a look ahead at the storylines coming up next week. We're going to do all of that on Monday's episode. Before we sign off this Friday, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work at Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for this week's episodes of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back on Monday with an all new episode. We will see you then.